The Wednesday Strangler is a suspected serial killer who was active in Japan between 1975 and 1989. The serial killer is believed to be responsible for 7 murders, known as the Saga Women Murders. The killer earned this nickname because 6 out of the 7 victims went missing on a Wednesday. As of 2021, the 7 murders that were committed by the Wednesday Strangler have not been solved, and the identity of the killer is still unknown. Join me as we dive deeper into this case. How this case started. A 12-year-old girl was alone at home in the evening when she went missing. The girl, known as Y, usually studied at the pub her mother owned in the evenings, but she was home alone on this particular night. When her family came back home, they discovered that the television was still turned on and the girl's shoes, which she had worn earlier that day, were still there. The neighbor's daughter reported to the police that she witnessed an unknown man forcing the girl into his vehicle. On April 12, 1980, a 20-year-old woman living in Shiroishi went missing while she was alone at home. It is worth mentioning that her disappearance had similarities to the first victim's case. The young woman, often called H, had previously tried to end her own life and had informed people in her life that she planned to do so again when she reached the age of 20. H turned 20 years old the day before she went missing. On April 16th, only 4 days after H disappeared, her father received a letter informing him that his daughter is unlikely to come back home and expressing a wish for him to experience suffering as well. His father received several phone calls advising him not to appear on a TV program to talk about his daughter's disappearance and not to share any pictures of H. The only victim on the list who disappeared on a day that is not Wednesday is H. 2 dead bodies were found in a septic tank located near a primary school in Shiroishi. The bodies found were identified as Y, a 12-year-old girl who went missing 5 years ago, and H, a 20-year-old woman who disappeared a few months ago in April. According to multiple reports, the septic tanks were filled with stones. The bodies were in such a state of decomposition that it was not possible to determine the exact cause of death. I'm not sure if both bodies were found on the same day and at the same time. The confusion about the dates might be because H was found first on June 24th, and Yi was found on June 27th. A man was initially arrested for these 2 murders, but later he was released without being charged because there wasn't enough evidence against him. There are rumors about the connections between this man and the 2 victims. Some people say that the man used to visit the bar where Y's mother worked, while another rumor suggests that he was dating someone referred to as H. To clarify, the information being discussed is based on rumors and should not be considered as absolute fact. A 27-year-old woman who lives in Shiroishi was seen by a co-worker talking to a man who appeared to be in his 30s. The man was sitting in a car. This is the most recent sighting of the 3rd victim while they were still alive. According to reports, the 3rd victim had been absent from work for 4 days before she went missing. During that time, she had informed others that she was taking care of her sick mother. The woman's body was discovered on October 21, 1981, which was 2 weeks after she was last seen. Her body was found in an empty lot. No evidence of sexual abuse was found, and the cause of death was determined to be strangulation using a power cord. In Kitagata, a young girl named A, who was 11 years old, was walking home from school when she was tragically strangled to death. The authorities discovered her body without clothing below the waist, and her school bag was still attached to her back. After A went missing, multiple witnesses came forward to report that they had encountered a man driving a white car in the area. They claimed that this man had tried to abduct them on the same day. A young student from a primary school was taken by an unidentified man, but he released her when she started crying and screaming. A 48-year-old woman, referred to as H, went missing after receiving a phone call that clearly disturbed her. The 4th victim was having a meal with her mother and son when she got a phone call. She explained to her mother that she needed to leave in order to give a friend a ride, but she told her son that she had to leave to have dinner with a friend. His car was found in the parking lot of a bowling alley at some point after she went missing. He had been employed at the same location as the individual who was 27 years old and had been discovered deceased due to strangulation 6 years ago. A woman who is 50 years old went missing in Kitagata. She left her house to play volleyball, which is a 10-minute walk away from her home, usually accompanied by a friend, and often took this walk. However, on this particular day, Her friend was not able to join her, so went for the walk alone. According to witness reports, someone identified as N was observed having a conversation with an unidentified woman who was sitting in a car. However, law enforcement has been unable to determine the woman's identity. A week after N disappeared, her husband received a phone call that was recorded by a police officer who was looking into her disappearance. A woman who is 37 years old went missing after she walked home from spending the evening with a friend. She is commonly known as Y, but there is limited information about her disappearance. The bodies of the letters H, N, and I were discovered together at the bottom of a cliff in Kitagata Otoge. The cause of death for all three individuals was determined to be strangulation. The last three murders became known as the Kitagata affair because all 7 murders in this series happened within a 20-kilometer area of the Saga prefecture, Kitagata affair. On January 27, 1989, at approximately 5 p.m., a couple driving near a mountain forest in Kishima district discovered 3 female bodies that had been left below a cliff. They promptly informed the police about the incident. The victims have been identified as an employee at a restaurant named H, a housewife named N, and an office worker named Y. The belief is that the individuals were killed on 3 separate dates: July 8, 1987, December 7, 1988, and the most recent one on January 25, just 2 days before the bodies were discovered. It is believed that the belongings of the victims were thrown away in various locations within a 2-mile distance from where the bodies were discovered. In November of that year, a 26-year-old man, who was already in custody for a different crime, confessed to 3 of the murders during a cognitive interview. However, he later changed his statement and denied making the confession. On June 11, 2002, the police in Saga Prefecture charged a prisoner with the murder of Y. The prisoner was already in Kagoshima prison at the time and was later charged with additional crimes. The indictment was submitted on July 7th, just about 6 hours before the time limit for charging the murder case ran out. The trial started on October 22nd, and the prosecution presented arguments supporting the death penalty. The Saga District Court found the defendant innocent of all charges on April 10, 2005, stating that there was insufficient evidence and that the interrogating officers had coerced the defendant. The prosecution challenged the decision, but the Fukuoka High Court declared him not guilty on March 19, 2007, just like the Saga District Court did initially. During the second trial, the prosecution attempted to utilize recently acquired mitochondrial DNA to determine if there were any potential links to the victims. However, once again, the defendant was found not guilty. The Saga Prefectural Police acknowledged that they conducted a flawed investigation, which involved excessive questioning of the suspect. The Fukuoka Department of the Supreme Public Prosecutor's Office discovered several violations in a case appeal that was overturned on March 29. They also considered the limited evidence available. The defendant was acquitted because no appeal was made before the April 2nd deadline. The statute of limitations for the 4 cases expired, meaning that they cannot be pursued legally anymore. As a result, these cases remain unsolved up until now. In the ruling of the second trial, the accused expressed their criticism towards the Saga Prefectural Police and the prosecutor's inadequate investigation and prosecution. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel.